The city of Brookhaven was a sprawling maze of towering skyscrapers, neon lights, and bustling streets. It was a place where dreams were made and broken, and where secrets lurked in every shadow. Detective Jack Malone had seen it all in his 20 years on the force. But nothing could have prepared him for the case that landed on his desk one rainy evening. It started with a phone call. The voice on the other end was shaky, barely above a whisper. "Detective Malone, you need to come to the corner of 5th and Elm. There's something you need to see." Before Jack could ask any questions, the line went dead. He grabbed his coat and headed out into the rain-soaked streets. When he arrived at the corner of 5th and Elm, he found a crowd gathered around a body lying in the gutter. The victim was a young man, no older than 25, dressed in a suit that had seen better days. His face was pale, and his eyes were wide open, staring at the sky. Jack knelt beside the body and examined it closely. There were no visible wounds, no signs of struggle. It was as if the young man had simply dropped dead in the middle of the street. "Any idea who he is?" Jack asked the officer who had secured the scene. "No ID on him," the officer replied. "But we found this in his pocket." He handed Jack a small, crumpled piece of paper. Unfolding it, Jack saw a series of numbers and letters scrawled in hurried handwriting. It looked like some kind of code. Jack's instincts told him there was more to this case than met the eye. He took the paper and headed back to the precinct, where he spent the next few hours trying to decipher the code. It wasn't until the early hours of the morning that he finally cracked it. The code was a set of coordinates, pointing to a location on the outskirts of the city. Jack drove to the location, a rundown warehouse in an industrial area. The place looked abandoned, but as he approached, he noticed a faint light coming from inside. He drew his gun and cautiously entered the building. Inside, he found a makeshift office filled with computers, maps, and stacks of documents. In the center of the room was a large table covered with blueprints of the city's infrastructure. Jack's eyes widened as he realized what he was looking at, a detailed plan to sabotage the city's power grid. Before he could process the information, he heard a noise behind him. He turned just in time to see a shadowy figure lunging at him. Jack fired his gun, but the figure dodged the bullet and disappeared into the darkness. Jack quickly gathered as many documents as he could carry and headed back to the precinct. He spent the next few days poring over the information, piecing together the conspiracy. It appeared that a group of rogue engineers and disgruntled city workers had banded together to take down the city's power grid, plunging Brookhaven into chaos. But why? Jack wondered. What could they possibly gain from such an act? The answer came in the form of a name, Victor Kane. A wealthy businessman with a reputation for shady dealings, Kane had been quietly buying up properties in the city's poorest neighborhoods. If the power grid went down, property values would plummet, and Kane would be able to buy up the city for a fraction of its worth. Jack knew he had to act fast. He gathered a team of trusted officers and raided Kane's penthouse. They found him in his study, surrounded by stacks of money and documents. Kane was calm, almost smug, as Jack arrested him. "You think this is over, Malone?" Kane sneered. "You have no idea what you're up against." Jack ignored him and focused on the task at hand. With Kane in custody and the conspiracy exposed, the city was safe for now. But as Jack walked the streets of Brookhaven that night, he couldn't shake the feeling that there were still secrets lurking in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. And he knew that as long as there were people like Victor Kane, his work would never be done. The city streets were alive with the hum of life, but beneath the surface, the conspiracy had only just begun. And Detective Jack Malone would be there to uncover the truth, no matter where it led.